Welcome back, everyone. We've had yet another exciting week nationally as well as on the world stage with the WNBA draft pick. I also have a special guest joining me today, so let's get straight into it. Saffron Shields and Lara Sumfai both started for Team World at the third annual Nike Hoop Summit. Unfortunately, Team World fell short to Team USA 90-78, but Shields finished with 8 points, 8 rebounds, and 3 assists, and Somfai finishing the game with 7 points, 2 rebounds, and 2 assists. What a great time for Australia to show their talent. Unfortunately, Dash Daniels did receive an injury, so unfortunately he did not play for Team World, but hopefully it's nothing too serious and we see Dash on the court as soon as possible. So shout out Dash, we hope you're feeling better. Now let's turn our agenda to EuroLeague. Our one and only Ezi Magbagor has been playing for Prague, and her team were just named EuroLeague champions. They beat their competitor Mersin in the final 66-53. Ezi was also named in the EuroLeague All-Star 5. So congratulations, Ezi. What an amazing achievement and amazing season you've had over in Europe, and what form she will be taking in to this WNBA season with the Seattle Storm. Then let's turn to nationals. One of my favorite times of my career is under 18 nationals especially. So there was double victory for Victoria with the Vic Metro women and the Vic Country men both bringing back home the gold to Victoria. So the Vic Country men defeated New South Wales Metro 83-74, and Vic Metro women defeated South Australia Metro with a convincing 111-79 win. So cherish those days, kids, because they're some of the best memories you have. Now, let's talk about the biggest thing that's just probably happened with Australian basketball yesterday. The one and only Georgia Amor was drafted as number 6 pick by the Washington Mystics yesterday. How great is it to see another Aussie drafted into the WNBA, let alone in the top 10? And another layer I think we have to mention to it is her outfit that she wore on the orange carpet as well as to draft day. And this was designed by NBA star Russell Westbrook, which this is such an epic collab. And I want to say collab again, because it definitely was obviously the vision of Westbrook, but Georgia looked super chic whilst also maintaining her personality and her own style. So that's something that's pretty cool, and I'm sure she will remember forever. So she went a lot higher in the draft than I think some of these mock drafts that were put out earlier this year. And I just think it is so well deserved. Her stats proved it. She has that work ethic, determination, and I think she definitely deserved the overall pick of number 6. So, of course, outsiders, including media, they're going to pick on or look at, I guess, what her weaknesses are. And one of the things, obviously, that pops up is her size and her transition from junior college to now senior into the WNBA. And yes, she's standing at 5'6", but that doesn't really mean anything. And something I love that she quoted with Holly Rowe when she came off the stage after she was drafted and received her jersey was, "For as long as people have called me too short, I've been working on how to counteract that." I just couldn't love that quote more. I think it's a perfect mentality, especially for younger kids to have. If a coach or an outsider or whoever it is says you're lacking in something, prove them wrong, or go be really good in another form, another aspect of your game. So then it doesn't matter. They don't see that. I think that's a great mentality to have. And I think she is so skilled and talented. And like I said before, she's such a hard worker. She has that dog mentality, as she like to says. And I think that proves if she was part of Kelsey Plum's, Under Armour class. Kelsey Plum, she has the dog in her at She was with Vegas Aces for some time now. She's at the Sparks, but she has such great handles and she's a great facilitator and especially great decision maker out of pick and rolls. She knows where the pass needs to go. She can split the defense, find her own pass, retreat out of a pick and roll. And I just think she has that scorer's mentality and she can really finish well at the rim. So she'll have a lot of help around her. And I'm sure, like every young kid or junior who's gone into a senior division, it's a bit of a slap in the face. And it is a transition. And obviously, it's going to be different than college. But I really believe that she will make the right adjustments. She will add the different tools to her game that she needs to. And she will have that surrounding staff that will help her. And I really do think with that dog mentality as well as her drive, she will have a very successful career in the WNBA. I also think Washington Mystics are really in a building and growth stage. I don't think they're going to win a championship this season, maybe not next season, but they've had really good draft picks. They're building a quite young team, and I think they're definitely a future team to look out for that are championship material. So they had the likes of Aaliyah Edwards, Shakira Austin, Jade Melbourne, and now Georgia Amor, who I think is a great addition to the team. So the Mystics also drafted pick number 3 and number 4, and Georgia was at number 6. So this is going to be wild, and I can't wait to see what this team looks like, who ends up getting on the final roster, and of course, Georgia's first season in the WNBA. And I think one other thing that all Aussie fans will be super excited about is that she'll be joining fellow Aussie Jade Melbourne at Mystics. And I think it will be so good, one, to have a fellow Aussie. We always stick together, as well as, that transition from junior to senior. Jade might be able to help her through that a little bit. But Georgia Amor definitely has her head screwed on. She knows she needs to work hard, and it's limitless now. I just can't wait to see what she has to do. So congratulations, Georgia, on being drafted, and we can't wait to watch you grow. Now we are going to speak to someone who knows exactly about this whole experience that we've just been speaking about. So please welcome my very special guest, Jaz Shelley. Thanks for joining us today, Jaz.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
So we were just speaking about Georgia Amor and her being the overall 6th pick. So I wanted to speak to you because you've literally gone through that whole experience. So first off, did you watch draft day yesterday, or were you up to date with it on socials at all?
I was up to date. I got to watch the first round, and then after that, I was on socials.
And I want to know, what was it like now watching it from the sidelines and experiencing it that way rather than like being entrenched in it?
I liked it this year, being able to watch it and not so stressed. Obviously, I got called in the third round, so it was kind of. It takes a while to get to the last rounds. So, like, I feel like I was sitting there last year just like, oh my God, is it going to happen? Is it not? So it was kind of nice to know I was 100% not going to be called this year.
I was going to say that feeling of just like, is it going to happen? Is it not? Am I like, I'm sweating? I'm like having hot flushes. Am I going to be devastated? But that's for people who don't know. You were the 29th overall pick by the Phoenix Mercury last year, which was amazing. I remember watching you in some practice games through the WNBA live stream, and it was just super cool to see an Aussie go through your college years and then, play at that level. And I guess I want to know, what were your lead up? What was your emotions into the lead up of the draft? Because not many of us really know what it's like back here.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the unknown was the scariest part for me. I wasn't sure if I was going to get drafted or not. So that was quite scary. So I had an agent that said there is a high chance that you could. So let's keep it maybe low key if you wanted to have like a draft party or anything like that. So I pretty much just invited all of my college friends and my coaches and anyone that's ever supported me throughout my career at Nebraska. And we all just got in my friend's garage and we watched the draft together. So I was like, if I don't get called, I'm with my closest people who will understand, but it's also if I do get called, it'd be really cool to be able to share that experience with them. So after season ended with college, I pretty much just trained because if I was going to get drafted, obviously I would have went straight to a camp. If I wasn't, I was going to come straight back to Australia and play anyway. So I kind of, as soon as season was done, there wasn't really much time to chill. Just went straight back into it and then just waited to see.
Yeah, and I love that. That was literally my next question. I was like, set the scene. Like, who were you with? What
Yeah.
was the vibe? And I love that you had all your people to support you. So no matter which way it turned, like you were going to be okay with either outcome. I think
Yeah.
that's like a really smart mentality to have. And now I think I want to go into, okay, we've had this build up. You've now been drafted. Like, hallelujah. What did you do right after that had happened? What was the celebration?
I cried. I'm not a big
Oh,
crier, so like that, I think it just kind of hit me all at once. I think that's something that you always kind of dream about, but to be able to see your name come up on the board was just something that kind of just took me like it was an absolutely surreal moment. So that was super cool just to be able to experience that. And then you start to go through the thoughts of, oh my God, I'm about to go to a WNBA camp with Diana Taurasi and Brittany Griner. Like, I think then it started to be like, I gotta go. So like I organized my workout for the next day and I'm like, all right, we're gonna get straight into it. But it was a lot of emotions. I celebrated that night with my friends and everyone that was there in the US and then yeah, just kind of went straight into training and just got to get straight. I went to Phoenix about a week and a half after my name got called.
I think that's one of the things from the outside. It's people are just like, oh, it's just bells and whistles. Like, especially say the ladies who go to the draft day and they, it's the big shebang, or even for you guys having draft parties. And a lot of the time, I've said this before, people just think we're like sipping pina coladas and traveling the world and doing this and that. And you're like, no, like you cried because it's our blood, sweat, and tears. Like,
Yeah.
this is one of your biggest dreams and goals.
Yeah.
So, what now let's talk about what really happens now that you're at training camp. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Because I feel like that's a very unknown space for a lot of just outsiders and even basketballers in general.
Yeah. Yeah, so I went to Phoenix about a week early before training camp started because you have to kind of do all like your bloods and physical testing and that stuff to be able to get cleared to be able to go into training camp. So I got there a bit early to do that. And then they ran workouts and stuff for people that were there early. So I did a bunch of team sessions and stuff for everyone that was there. And then as soon as we went to training camp, ours was a little bit more unique and we went to San Diego for our training camp for a week. It was actually only one a
Cool.
days where I've heard some horror stories about WNBA training camps of like two a days, the vets get on you, and I've like already heard all these stories about Diana Taurasi. So I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my God, freaking out just a little bit. But just all the vets that were there were absolutely unreal to me. Like Diana, Brittany Griner, Sophie Cunningham. I was lucky to have Bec Allen with me as well. So that was kind of a breath of fresh air. And Amy Atwell was in that training camp too. So it was kind of nice to have some Aussies. And Fleur McIntyre was on the staff. So it was really nice. And I had a very unique experience to people that probably came before me going into WNBA camp. So I was very lucky, very fortunate. So we went to San Diego for a week, just did one a days for 2 to 3 hours. And yeah, that was for the next 6 to 7 days. We came home from San Diego to Phoenix, and everyone that's on camp, which was about 20 plus, got to play in the practice games. And so we played
Love that.
in Seattle, and then we played in Phoenix, and then everyone's. Do you want me to get into the waving process yet, or?
Now you can hold on to that. I want to
Yeah.
ask you one more question. You Look, you just said, I think fortunate in the respect of you had fellow Aussies, and I feel like we just like band
We
together
do.
always. And so great that you've had Amy Atwell there, who again it was still new and fresh for her, as well as Bec Allen to like she's been there for several years to show you the ropes.
Hmm.
But what was it like to have the GOAT? Diana Taurasi, who is known for her white line fever and like get shit done
Yeah.
attitude, and also like Brittany Griner, who's just come back out of jail in Russia and that saga. Like, what was this like? Because honestly, this sounds like a movie. Like, say it out loud.
Yes, it was, and that's what's the scariest part for me is very big personalities, and you put Sophie Cunningham in there as well, like very big personalities that you
Yep.
don't really know what you're gonna get from people. But then as soon as so that was before I had to get all my samples done, all the testing before I could get into the venue. So that was about 2 to 3 days of like, oh my God, I'm sitting here just waiting to go into this camp, just freaking out. Mainly could meet people. But then when I got there, they were just over the top, so nice to us rookies that it was very nice to be able to feel that support. Sophie Cunningham was unreal. She kind of put me under her wing. Same with Diana Taurasi. She jokes a lot. Like she's very cool human. Like she has white line fever, but she just gets it. And she said that we should be thanking her for not having tour-a-days because she's 40 and she can't do them anymore. So she's like, you rookies are very lucky.
Respect.
You're very lucky. And then BG was awesome. And also when her documentary came out about her time in Russia, we were around her then. So it was just absolutely unreal to show the support that people had rallied for her and just to see kind of a bit of emotion behind it and the stuff that she obviously went through. But then to see her in real life and how she's dealing with life after all that.
I can't even imagine. And I guess, what was your biggest takeaway or maybe lesson learned from training camp?
Yeah, I would say you kind of just have to have a bit of a niche. You can't bucket getters don't always get you to the next level. I think you got to be able
Mhm.
to provide something. Um, and then for me, I thought maybe like defense and shooting ability and stuff, but it's really just kind of got to go into a training camp and just be a dog and kind of just own it and be so super confident and stuff. But it's always sometimes people are just looking for certain positions, which also makes it difficult. But you kind of just got to be who you are and what and show what you're good at, and then hopefully that's going to be enough for a team one day.
I really love that. And I think a lot of junior kids hearing this is that some like inspiration they can really take. And I love that be a dog mentality, own what you got and work on different skill sets. And I spoke about it with Maylee, how like sometimes you're just unlucky that your spot isn't free because there's already 2,000 of you right there. But
Yeah.
now I want to get to, I guess, the business side of things. So unfortunately, you were waived, and we've all been there where this is your dream and it's like so close and you've done everything you can to grab it with both hands, and then this happens. Can you explain a little bit about what the business side of that is like?
Yeah.
Being at camp, then Phoenix waving you, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I'm back in Australia and I've just been in college at training camp. Although this has happened. What was
Yeah.
like? Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so obviously we go into training camp with 20 odd of us, and they chose 11. So a lot of people are going to get cut. You kind of just knew that that was going to happen. Um, but the process that Phoenix took was pretty nice. I mean, there's obviously been some horror stories as well about how people get cut, just left off travel lists or kicked out of group chats or random left at airports. Like there's so many crazy stories. I was very lucky that you either go up the stairs to get cut or you go down the stairs to go to practice. So there was someone like ushering us either upstairs to go and have a meeting with the coaches and
Okay.
um, told you got waived, or you go downstairs and you go practice in an hour. So it was very cool to have. Obviously Fleur was on the staff as well, so it was nice to have an Australian on that side that's protective of feelings and that sort of thing. So but it's obviously a business. Like you can there's only what 100 and now 160 something spots in the WNBA. So it's just absolutely unreal to be good enough to make a team. So you kind of knew that was the business side. And then, yeah, once I got waived, thank God it was one day before my birthday and they didn't wait one more day to cut me on my birthday. So then I went back to Nebraska and then just continued to work out because I knew I was going to come back to Australia. Um, and then obviously played the back end of the NBL one season and then signed on with Geelong for WNBL. So the cool part about being Australian is there are options for us to come back and play in our home country. A little bit
Mhm.
different for Americans that don't really have a secondary league or anything like that. It's kind of WNBA or overseas. So I was very lucky to be one to come home.
Exactly. And I feel like I might know the answer after saying what you just said, but mentally, were you like really upset and distraught, or were you just like, hey, what an experience I just had? I know there's not many spots, like there needs to be more WNBA teams. Thank God they have the Valkyries, but that's only one. Like there's so many more people coming um, from overseas as well as in their own country
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
What was your mindset? Because you said, "Hey, I went back to Nebraska and I got on the gym. I got in the gym." So, like, were you okay?
Yeah, it was a tough one because obviously hearing it, you get upset and stuff because that's obviously a dream of yours. And I felt like I had a pretty
Mhm.
good training camp. So I thought maybe it could have gone my way. Um, so then obviously hearing it and being like, you're definitely not on the team, obviously is going to sting for anyone.
Yeah,
But in the back of your head, you kind of always know that that's going to be something that's likely to happen. And then I've also hadn't been home in 5 years. So that was also a little bit in the back of my head that it's like I really miss Australia and want to come home. But I also think being at that training camp, like you could make the team and there's the business side of WNBA is you could be cut at any point. So for
it's
me
crazy.
is I know there's parts of my game that I need to work on to be one of the top dogs in the WNBA. Like I kind of wanted, if I ever do get the chance, I want to feel like I'm at the peak of my basketball career. So the cool thing is there's always an opportunity to get back in there. So it's not like my dream is done and it's dead. So I think that was also something that was floating in my brain.
Exactly, and I think that's such a powerful mindset to have, and you're still so young, and there's so much time for you to grow and work. And I think, like everyone, I've experienced it as well. It's like, for every knockback, there's always a comeback, and sometimes it tastes that little bit sweeter. And you've really worked for it and you've really grinded. And I think, yeah, what I really want to know now is, so you were at the University of Oregon and then you transferred to the University of Nebraska, where you were super successful personally, like really grew, really shined. And we just said you're so earlier in your career and you've achieved so much already. So you just finished your first season, you just mentioned, with the WNBL, in the WNBL for Geelong United. How did you find it, one, being back home, and two, being, I guess, a part of Geelong, and it was the first time that was as a club, so being a part
Yeah.
of something growing from the beginning?
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Main thing is to be able to have like my family and stuff, family and friends at games was something that was definitely weird to like look over there and see them because it had been so long without having them around, and just to be able to like drive an hour to my sister's place, and then my sister got married so I was able to go to a wedding, just like little things that I had really
Mhm.
missed out on being in the US. So like that was a lot of fulfillment, but then also having Geelong is pretty a close place to my family, but also I played there in NBL one when I was 18. I absolutely love the place and the community. It reminds me a lot of like a regional community, small town. Everyone kind of gets around it. So it was really cool to be able to bring a WNBL team to this regional area, because that was also important for me as well.
And you've signed a 2-year deal with them, so you'll be going into your second season with them. I guess, where do you feel you are, like, right now in your career, and what do you want to achieve out of next season?
Yeah, I think being the first time in the league for Geelong, that took a lot of had to grow up a little. We had a very young team, a lot of people in the league for the first time. It was all about experience, I think. And now I think that we've done it and we've learned a lot from that experience. Like, I don't think there's a reason why we can't strive now to be in finals. I think the first year was like, okay, cool, we're here. Let's get as much as
Mhm.
we can out of this. But now I feel like we could have enough talent to be able to take it a bit further and start to try and knock off some goals of being in finals contention.
And I personally think it's super important to have, like, your own personal goals, short term and long term. So now we've spoken a bit about, like, your career in the last few years, like, in a nutshell. What goals, I guess, do you have or see for yourself in the next few years?
Yeah, I mean, the Opals has always been my number one goal that's ahead of WNBA, ahead of WNBL, everything. So to try and get back into that squad is definitely the number one thing on my list right now. And then obviously if a WNBA opportunity comes around, that would be my next goal.
Well, I love that so much. And I think, honestly, it's limitless for you. And I just want to say thank you so much for coming on the show
Yeah, of
today.
course.
Just hearing your insight on WNBA, draft day, college, and then just sharing your experiences and being very honest and open. I do really appreciate that. I think it's so good that people get to hear our stories and our journeys. And I look forward to see what you do next. Good luck with
Thank
MBL
you.
1 and good luck with next WNBL season with Geelong.
Thank you. I appreciate it. No, it was cool to talk about.
Well, guys, that's all we have time for today, but make sure you tune in next week as we talk things basketball all around the globe. It's a Cole World.